but she has not been right all season, and that sight is not a good one for her, for the Fever, or of course for anyone around the WNBA, because it's difficult to see Clark holding back tears.
Caitlin Clark's 2025 WNBA season didn't end with a dramatic collision or a gruesome moment replayed endlessly on sports highlight reels. Instead, it closed in a way far more insidious, quietly, almost deceptively. On July 15th, in the final minute of the Indiana Fever's hard-fought 85-77 win over the Connecticut Sun, Clark felt a little something in her groin. Those words, spoken almost casually in the immediate aftermath, would prove to be the tipping point. That something became the right groin injury that ended her sophomore season. Days later, the news broke officially. Caitlin Clark would not return in 2025. She took to social media herself, writing, "I will not be returning to play this season."
Score, obviously, that's an obvious statement. Sophie Cunningham played well off the bench. She was upset with the refs after the game too, because she got hit in the head and they didn't call it. I mean, WNBA refs, that's another thing. That's another topic. It was brought up by Caitlin Clark's brother after the game. He since deleted the post, but he posted this. Make no mistake, this is on the reffing. Now, it's not exactly A to B, where action A leads to injury B, but Caitlin Clark, and this goes for the WNBA, where there's a level of physicality allowed, but it is most prominent with her because she has the ball and she gets the most attention. Like statistically, she gets the most attention, blitzes and doubles and all that stuff.
"I spent hours in the gym every day with the singular goal of getting back out there. Disappointed isn't a big enough word to describe how I am feeling." The message hit hard, not just because Clark was the face of the Fever, but because she had quickly become the face of the entire league. Her absence wasn't just a player missing time. It was a seismic shock to the WNBA's momentum. For Clark, this was the culmination of months of pain, effort, and hope. Fans had watched her rush back from earlier injuries, determined to fight through the grind of her sophomore campaign. But bodies don't bend to willpower, and no amount of adrenaline or competitive fire can speed up recovery.
So lads, today we gotta talk about this, and this is from Caitlin Clark's brother. Caitlin Clark's brother, as soon as she got injured, tweeted this out. "Make no mistake, this is on the reffing." This is on the reffing. This tweet lasted about 30 minutes. It lasted about 30 minutes. And if we're going to be honest, he's on the money. He is. He's absolutely.
By September 4th, after missing nearly 20 straight games, Clark faced reality. She was done for 2025. The groin strain had lingered too long. The bone bruise picked up during rehab had complicated her recovery, and there simply wasn't enough time left on the calendar to risk a rushed return. The weight of the decision wasn't lost on anyone. Fever General Manager Amber Cox underscored the point. Clark's long-term health was the priority. The franchise wasn't about to jeopardize her career just to squeeze a few more games out of her this season.
Oh, that was an anticlimax for what was a terrible game, but a fantastic fourth quarter. An absolutely fantastic fourth quarter from Caitlin Clark. An absolutely fantastic fourth quarter. Like 9 points in the fourth quarter, huge. Terrible, great first quarter. Terrible second quarter, terrible third quarter. And she just took over in the fourth quarter there. She absolutely took over in the fourth quarter.
And yet, even knowing the logic, the disappointment ran deep. This wasn't just Indiana losing its star. This was the WNBA losing its marquee attraction for the stretch run. Just as playoff races tightened and storylines were peaking, Clark herself had hinted at the difficulty of her situation weeks earlier. On Sue Bird's podcast, she confessed, "It's not like I have a training camp to build up to play in my first game again. It's like, no, you're tossed into game 30 and told to go try to play well. It's hard. It really is." That vulnerability, rarely seen in her otherwise fiery persona, revealed how grueling the cycle of injury and rehab had become.
Like, whatever the hell the S&C, whatever the S&C team have done, whatever happened when she bulked up, she has injured her right and her left groin. She has injured both groins now, and she has injured her right and her left quad. She's injured both of them. There's something wrong with her mechanics. And yes, that is affecting the running, that is affecting the shooting. There is something wrong with her mechanics, and that S&C team has a lot to answer for. The strength and conditioning team that she has had that has bulked her up has a...
Every comeback attempt left her weaker, every setback more frustrating. By July's end, the grind was unsustainable. The emotional fallout extended far beyond Clark's personal statement. Fever fans who had sold out arenas across the country to see her play were suddenly faced with months of uncertainty. National broadcasts that had banked on her star power were left scrambling for new storylines. And within Indiana's locker room, her teammates were forced to recalibrate. The player who made defenses collapse, who generated wide-open threes with her gravity alone, was gone. But perhaps the most telling sign of the moment's gravity came from WNBA legend Lisa Leslie. She urged the Fever to shut Clark down early, warning of the dangers of playing through groin injuries and the catastrophic risk of turning a strain into something career-altering. When one of the league's all-time greats says it's time to protect the future, you listen. So July 15th became more than just another date on the Fever's schedule. It was the breaking point. It was the night Caitlin Clark's season effectively ended, the night Indiana's playoff hopes shifted dramatically, and the night the WNBA's brightest star stepped off the stage. And while her official announcement weeks later put a bow on the decision, anyone paying close attention knew that July moment in Boston had changed everything. Clark's season didn't end in flames, but in quiet frustration. A superstar sidelined, a fan base left waiting, and a league suddenly forced to ask, what does the WNBA look like without Caitlin Clark lighting it up every night? That question will linger as the story of her lost season unfolds. When the story of Caitlin Clark's 2025 campaign is told, it won't be remembered as a year of growth or dominance. It will be remembered as a season marred by setbacks, one injury after another that chipped away at both her rhythm and her resilience until the eventual shutdown became inevitable. For fans who had watched her blaze through college with an almost mythic durability, seeing Clark trapped in a cycle of injuries felt surreal. Yet, the timeline of her season tells a story that's as clear as it is painful. It started on May 24th against the New York Liberty. Clark had been her usual dynamic self, logging a double-double with 18 points and 10 assists, but something felt off. After the game, she revealed discomfort in her left quad. "Adrenaline covers up a lot of stuff when you're in the heat of battle," she admitted, later learning through an MRI that the issue was worse than she feared. She missed the next 5 games. For the Fever, who were just beginning to find an identity around her playmaking, it was a jarring pause. For Clark, it was her first taste of extended absence as a pro. When she returned on June 14th, she looked like herself again, dropping 32 points, 9 assists, and 8 rebounds in a statement win against the Liberty. That night, the narrative shifted back to optimism. Maybe this was just a blip. Maybe Clark would pick up right where she left off. But barely 10 days later, she suffered a left groin injury in a win over Seattle. Another blow, another stint on the sideline, this time for 4 games. Fever coach Stephanie White later admitted she only learned of Clark's discomfort after the game, a testament to how hard Clark pushed to mask her pain. By July 1st, her body had forced another concession. Clark was ruled out of Indiana's Commissioner's Cup showdown against Minnesota, a crushing blow considering she had been central to building that moment of excitement. Though the Fever went on to win, Clark was left cheering from the sidelines, her absence almost as notable as the trophy. Her return on July 9th against the expansion Golden State Valkyries should have been triumphant, but it was anything but. She managed just 10 points on 4 of 12 shooting. She looked rusty, fatigued, still fighting to find her rhythm. After the game, Clark admitted, "It's going to take me a second to get my win back. Just trying to get my legs under me." Her words hinted at what the box score showed. This wasn't the same player who had lit up the Liberty weeks before. Then came July 15th, the night everything unraveled. Against the Connecticut Sun, she aggravated her right groin in the final minute of play. It seemed minor at first, but that little something quickly became the defining injury of her season. Clark hasn't suited up since. The Fever confirmed she'd missed the All-Star game in Indianapolis, where she had been voted captain, as well as the three-point contest, a devastating blow both personally and for the league's marketing machine. even as medical evaluations in late July reassured fans there was no additional damage. The setbacks kept piling up. On August 7th, during what should have been a routine workout in Phoenix, she suffered a mild bone bruise in her ankle. It was the cruelest twist yet. Not an injury in the heat of competition, but one that came during rehab. Each step forward was followed by 2 steps back. Clark herself voiced her frustration on August 8th on Sue Bird's podcast. "It's not like I have a training camp to build up," she lamented. "You're tossed into Game 30 and told to go try to play well. It's hard. It really is." Those words captured the What makes the story of her 2025 season so striking isn't just that she was injured. It's that she never had a chance to build momentum. Every return was met with another setback, every high with another crash. It was a cycle no competitor can endure forever. And for Clark, it culminated in the most dreaded outcome, a lost season. The Indiana Fever entered the 2025 season with expectations they hadn't felt in years. With Caitlin Clark running the show in her second season, the hope was that Indiana could finally transition from a rebuilding team to a legitimate playoff contender. And in flashes, when Clark was on the floor, that vision felt real. The Fever were 8-5 with her in the lineup, a winning clip that placed them firmly in the middle of the Eastern Conference playoff race. But the reality of life without Clark painted a different picture. One where every possession, every matchup, and every adjustment carried more weight because their offensive engine wasn't there to steer the ship. When Clark went down with her quad injury in May, the Fever initially tried to replicate her production by committee. Nalissa Smith, Aaliyah Boston, and Kelsey Mitchell shouldered heavier scoring loads, while Erica Wheeler and Christy Wallace attempted to stabilize the backcourt. The results were mixed. Indiana could still generate stretches of inspired basketball, especially when Boston dominated the paint. But the absence of Clark's gravity warped their offense. Defenses could play Indiana straight up, no longer forced to pick their poison between blitzing Clark on the perimeter or protecting the rim. Without her deep shooting threat pulling defenders out 30 feet from the basket, the floor spacing shrank, suffocating the team's half-court flow. The most obvious casualty of Clark's absence was Indiana's pick-and-roll efficiency. With Clark, the Fever ran one of the most dynamic PNR attacks in the league, with her reads forcing defenses into impossible decisions. When she was sidelined, their pick-and-roll usage declined, and the efficiency cratered. Opponents dared Indiana's guards to beat them off the dribble or make high-level passing reads, areas where Clark's replacements simply couldn't replicate her value. And yet, despite these challenges, the Fever remained competitive. As of early September, Indiana sits 21-20, a record that speaks to both their resilience and their limitations. They managed to stay afloat largely because their defense, anchored by Boston's rim protection and Smith's versatility, tightened up. Coach Stephanie White emphasized a more balanced attack, leaning into transition opportunities and grinding through half-court sets with more patience. But even in their wins, the absence of Clark loomed. The Fever's offense lacked the electricity she provided, the kind that could swing momentum with a single pull-up three from 28 feet. To understand her impact, consider Indiana's record splits. At 8-5 with Clark, they resembled a playoff lock. Without her, they hovered closer to mediocrity. And it wasn't just the win-loss column. Her presence changed the geometry of the court. Teammates got easier looks. Boston, in particular, benefited from Clark's passing, as defenders were reluctant to send help-off shooters when Clark was orchestrating. Without her, Boston often faced double teams, forced into tougher shots or kickouts that didn't always translate into efficient possessions. The Fever also missed Clark's composure in late games. White's coaching adjustments kept the team competitive enough to maintain playoff hopes, even as Clark's return grew more uncertain. But make no mistake, Indiana without Clark was not Indiana at its best. Her absence was a reminder that while the Fever are building something sustainable, their ceiling depends on her. With Clark, they looked like a team capable of challenging anyone on a given night. Without her, they became scrappy, tough, and hard-working, but also predictable, missing the unpredictable brilliance that made their offense hum. Perhaps the most telling aspect of this stretch was how opponents approached Indiana. With Clark, defenses game-planned to contain her above all else, often sending double teams 35 feet from the basket. Without her, the Fever rarely drew those kinds of adjustments. Opponents respected Indiana, but they didn't fear them. And in a league where fear can be as powerful as talent, that difference was everything. In the end, the Fever without Clark showed two things at once: their resilience in the face of adversity and their dependency on their star guard. They proved they could grind out wins, but they also revealed how much of their identity is tied to Clark's presence. That's not a knock on the roster, it's simply the reality of having a generational talent. And it made her season-ending announcement on September 4th sting even more. Because for a fleeting moment, Indiana fans saw what their team could be. And then, just as quickly, it was gone. Sometimes the hardest decision in sports isn't about drawing up the right play or making the perfect substitution. It's knowing when not to play at all. That's the crossroads Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever arrived at in early September. After weeks of setbacks, flare-ups, and attempted comebacks, the franchise finally shut Clark down for the remainder of the 2025 season. At face value, it's a disappointment. Fans lose the chance to see her on the court, the team loses its brightest weapon, and broadcasters lose their most bankable storyline. But when we zoom out, the decision wasn't just logical, it was necessary. From a purely medical perspective, playing through a chronic groin strain with an associated bone bruise is a ticking time bomb. Soft tissue injuries are notoriously tricky. They heal slowly, they're prone to setbacks, and they rarely improve without extended rest. Experts like Lisa Leslie didn't mince words, saying flat out that rest is the only cure here. And for a player who is both the engine of her team and a long-term investment for the league, risking re-injury just to squeeze out a few more games in a lost season would have been short-sighted. The Fever's front office knew this. Clark herself knew this. And in a candid moment of vulnerability, she admitted the hardest part wasn't the physical pain. It was coming to terms with the idea of not being able to help her teammates chase a playoff berth. And here's where the decision reflects maturity. Too often, franchises bow to the short-term pressure of selling tickets, appeasing fans, or chasing a low playoff seed. Indiana took the opposite route. They prioritized Clark's health over everything. That sends a powerful message, not just to Clark, but to the rest of the roster. It tells Aaliyah Boston, Nalissa Smith, Lexi Hull, and the rest of this young core that the franchise isn't panicked or reactive. They're building patiently, with a long-view approach. For Clark herself, this forced pause might even become a blessing in disguise. Every rookie and sophomore needs time to adjust to the grind of a professional schedule. Her first 2 seasons were a whirlwind of NCAA fame, WNBA spotlight, overseas marketing tours, and national team commitments. Stepping away for a prolonged recovery gives her space to reset, mentally as much as physically. Great players often talk about the hidden seasons, where growth happens behind the scenes, in the weight room, in film study, in carefully controlled skill work. Clark now has that window, one that might sharpen her game in ways no 30-point night ever could. Still, it's impossible to ignore what's lost. Fans wanted to see Clark go head-to-head with Angel Reese, Kelsey Plum, and Sabrina Ionescu down the stretch. Broadcasters had circled Fever vs. Aces and Fever vs. Liberty as marquee ratings events. Even ESPN insiders admitted off-record that the WNBA's meteoric ratings bump in 2025 was largely tethered to Clark's on-court appearances. Her absence leaves a void, one that no single player can fully fill. And yet, the bigger picture reminds us, this isn't the end of the Caitlin Clark story. It's a strategic intermission. Indiana has chosen to preserve her body for the battles that truly matter: future playoff runs, a possible WNBA Finals push, and yes, the looming 2026 collective bargaining showdown where Clark's influence could reshape the league. Sometimes the smartest play is the one where you hold back, not drive forward. This was about more than markets that normally struggled to fill half the arena were suddenly selling out when Clark came to town. Connecticut, Phoenix, Dallas, you name it, the Clark effect was undeniable. The Fever, despite their losing record, ranked at the top of the league in road attendance. Now, opposing teams lose that guaranteed bump. The WNBA loses those viral sellout headlines that had become weekly fixtures on sports pages. It's not catastrophic, but it's noticeable. Then there's television. ESPN, ABC, Amazon, and CBS all built their summer programming with Clark in mind. Fever games were flexed into prime slots and ratings soared. Some nights, Clark drew more viewers than Major League Baseball or MLS matches. That momentum fueled the narrative of a league on the rise. Women's basketball was no longer a niche, it was appointment viewing. Without Clark in uniform, networks face a challenge. Can that audience be retained without the one player who moves casual fans to tune in? The next few weeks will quietly answer whether the WNBA's new ratings baseline is real or inflated by Clark's presence. Merchandise tells an even sharper story. In May, Clark's Fever jersey became the fastest-selling jersey in WNBA history. By July, Nike had already moved hundreds of thousands of units, from replica jerseys to Caitlin Clark t-shirts, to teasers of her signature shoe line expected in 2026. Every time she stepped onto the court, the hype machine churned. Highlight reels, social clips, commercials. But with Clark off the floor, Nike has to pivot. Her marketing campaigns shift from in-game moments to recovery narratives. Instead of, "Did you see that step-back three?" the angle becomes, "Clark is building for the future." It's still marketable, but the buzz is muted compared to her weekly viral highlights. The Fever also feel this impact directly in ticket packages and local sponsorships. Clark's presence in Indianapolis doubled local media coverage and spiked sponsorship deals from regional brands eager to attach themselves to her star power. While season ticket holders won't walk away, casual buyers lose the instant draw. The Fever's marketing department now has to recalibrate, highlighting Aaliyah Boston, Nalissa Smith, or even Sophie Cunningham as featured attractions in Clark's absence. And then there's the league's broader trajectory. 2025 was supposed to be the bridge year, the season Clark carried her NCAA stardom into full WNBA dominance, setting the table for the 2026 collective bargaining agreement. Her star power was ammunition for players demanding more: higher salaries, better travel conditions, greater revenue sharing. Shutting her down doesn't erase her influence, but it slows the drumbeat. Every record-breaking headline strengthens the player's negotiating hand. Fewer of those headlines in September means less leverage, at least in the short term. Still, there's a flip side. Clark's absence underscores just how dependent the league has become on her, and that, ironically, strengthens her hand in the long run. The WNBA is being forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. One player shouldn't carry the entire financial narrative of a 12-team league. It's a reminder that structural investment, not just Clark's brilliance, will determine sustainability. In a way, Clark's injury may become a wake-up call, pushing the league to spread its marketing love more evenly, to elevate other young stars, and to make sure the Caitlin Clark effect doesn't turn into the Caitlin Clark dependency. So yes, Clarkonomics is on pause, but it's not gone. If anything, the demand will only build. When she returns in 2026, fully healthy, the comeback itself becomes a product. The arenas will sell out again. The cameras will follow her again. Nike will drop the signature shoe, and ESPN will air the specials. This pause isn't the end of the story, it's the cliffhanger. And if there's one thing Caitlin Clark has mastered, it's keeping us all waiting for the next chapter. And that brings us full circle on the story of Caitlin Clark's 2025 season. An electrifying ride that ended too soon, but one that still leaves us with lessons about health, stardom, and the future of the WNBA. From the heartbreaking moment she was officially ruled out to the ripple effects on her team, her fans, and even the business of basketball, Clark's absence is more than just an injury, it's a turning point. But what do you think? Was shutting her down the right call? How will this impact the Fever heading into 2026? And what does it mean for the league as a whole? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments. Drop your takes, and I'll pin the best ones for the Her Hoops community to see. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like this video. It helps push the conversation further. Share it with other fans who follow Clark and the Fever. And most importantly, subscribe to Her Hoops so you don't miss our daily deep dives, player breakdowns, and WNBA storytelling. This is Her Hoops, your home for women's basketball. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.